Well, the people have spoken. The amount of passion behind DAPs, or digital audio players, in the year 2023 appears to be as strong as ever. It may be a niche market, but still exists, with a lot of audiophiles defending it to the death. And there is something to be said. Dedicated digital audio players have a lot more hardware features than smartphones do. While a smartphone can play audio, to purists it's just not the same. When pitted up against each other, DAPs are in a different league. They might be sparse, expensive, but they do still hold a place in people's hearts. So what are we talking about today? Today's feature is sent to us by Sony. Thank you to Sony for providing us this sample. This is the NW-A306. It may look like a miniaturized Xperia smartphone with its flush screen and bezel and screen-to-body ratio quite high, but this is not a smartphone. Despite it having Android, Wi-Fi, Google Play, USB-C, and a micro SD card on the opposing side from the 3.5mm headphone jack, it's not a smartphone. In fact, if it had an earpiece, one could argue that you could use it as a miniature smartphone. So today we're going to be talking about three things: form factor, overall usability, and of course, audio. When it comes to the overall look of this thing, it's quite nice. It's made out of high quality materials, plastic all around, and you do have this very nice lengthwise groove with an embossed Walkman symbol. On the side you get a bunch of buttons. You get the power button, plus, minus, forward, pause, play, back, and a hold in case you don't want to accidentally interact with the buttons themselves. In fact, overall, this is quite a nice build. It gets a little bit silly downstairs, to be honest. You do have a 3.5mm headphone jack, which is nice, but beside it, you get a lanyard loop, which Japan is notorious for having these on consumer electronics, but falls a little bit short because it occupies just as much space as the headphone jack. On the right, you have a micro SD card slot, which is nicely housed with a door with a rubber seal and a nice latch. Overall, very high quality. It starts to get completely weird when you get over to the USB port, because the USB port is just a little rubber stopper, and then the USB-C reveals down below. Not only that, the rubber stopper itself is importantly labeled and stamped with USB, and it's small and it's bouncy, which means it's incredibly easy to lose and seems very important as it comes with the unit and plugs the USB. I would have liked to see as much care gone into the door with the micro SD piled over onto the USB and just done away with the lanyard strap, because you could have easily just made another door with a hinge. Aside from that, the front is totally fine, leaving good screen-to-body ratio, just enough room for a Sony logo down below. And let's face it, it looks like a miniature Xperia smartphone. We have an Xperia 1 Mark III on the left and the Walkman on the right, and you can see that this tall is as big as that wide, but overall it's like a little miniature smartphone experience in your hand, which leads us into, what can it do? To be completely honest, if this had an earpiece and a microphone down below, you could use this as a mobile phone. You don't have any data communications, but you most certainly could tether it to another device, because this has the Google Play Store on board, which means you're able to download basically anything. You can download calling apps like Viber, you can download WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Line, Kakao Talk, and it's all just within the palm of your hands. Now, it gets a little bit squirrely with the screen because look how it's formatted. It's not really scaled properly in regards to how big the screen is. In fact, you only get a couple icons on the screen before you kind of lose track and you're a little bit disoriented. So it's a pleasantry that Google Play is on here. Full discovery on whatever app you choose to download, but overall, it's a little bit hindered by its overall screen size. Now, granted, that's not what it's meant for. This is a digital audio player, but at the same point, to be isolated by a couple tabs, something cut off, and a overall very tiny carousel is a little bit kind of leaves you wanting more. However, aside from that, you can download most anything from Google Play. Like you see here, we have the Kindle app. Yes, you can download and use apps Moon Plus Reader, Aldico, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, anything you want, and use this exactly like a smartphone, aside from being able to talk into it. Now you can use this as a super small micro reading machine, and you can use the app to the full extent, because there's nothing that's going to be excluded from the app. It's not a downscaled version. In fact, it tries so hard to be the full version that things most of the time just gets cut off. But you most definitely could. You can get 8 or 9 lines of maybe 2 words next to each other, but that's not what this is about. But just showing you that if you wanted to, you most definitely could utilize this as an e-reader, a smartphone to 80% of what a smartphone can do. You can go to the Amazon store, you can get books, you can go to the Barnes & Noble store, you can download basically anything you want on here to use it as a overall media device. Now for the audio portion. This is where it matters and this is where it gets complicated, but before we start that, there's a massive downside to this unit. There's no speaker, which is, I understand, for the purists, you don't want a tiny little speaker. That's not why you're buying this. But it would have been nice to have one as a pleasantry. And if you don't believe us, devices like basically any one of their smartphones, or even smaller Sony devices like dictaphones, have speakers on them just as a pleasantry, so you can at least listen to something. But that all goes away on this because there's literally no way to listen to it. If we press play and we press the volume all the way up, there's nothing you can do because there's no hardware in place to let you hear through any sort of speaker. So this is where the subjective part comes in. What do you prefer to listen to? Ones that are in your ears, over the ear, on the ear, high quality external speakers? Well, it's hard to really tell you how good audio is through the camera, through YouTube, through the machine that you are listening to right now, but we'll do the best we can, starting with what this can do for you in the world of audio. Now here comes the technical portion of this review, so stick around as best you can. There's a lot of terminology and abbreviated symbols that Sony is throwing at you when it comes to the advertisement of this unit. So let's start off with high-res audio. High-res audio means high-resolution audio, which equates to audio that has been captured and reproduced at a higher bitrate, 24-bit, 96 kHz, and beyond, which for the layman means it allows you to experience music much closer to the way it was actually recorded. DSD is one of the best lossless audio formats. Originally actually trademarked as a name by Sony and Philips, has slowly turned into a bit more of a generic throw-around word in the world of audio. It's extremely technical, but basically it stands for Direct Stream Digital and offers a higher bitrate than FLAC files, which is already colloquially known as lossless audio. However, DSD does have a trade-off in that it lacks modulation and bit depth, but there's absolutely no way we can dive into that in this review. LDAC. It is a proprietary audio coding technology developed by Sony themselves, which allows streaming high-resolution audio over Bluetooth connections at up to 990 kilobits per second. Basically, the infrastructure is in place to have less quality loss when transmitting audio through Bluetooth devices like headphones and speakers, which traditionally some electronic devices suffer from. 360 audio. Well, we're gonna skip over this one because if you look on the Sony website, there's about 4 pages, 3 videos, and 14 subsections all defining and promoting what 360 audio is, but basically, to sum it up, it's a super high quality experience developed by Sony that allows the user to get the full experience from vocals, pianos, to individual high and low notes, so maybe read up on that if you have the time. MQA Audio. This stands for Master Quality Authenticated. This file format achieves a way to digitally capture, as close as possible, the audio to the way it was originally recorded via analog. So it sounds as good as the original? Well, not really, but again, as close as you can get with digital. DSEE Ultimate. Using AI, DSEE, Digital Sound Enhancement Engine, upscales compressed digital music files in real time while you're listening to it, which delivers even greater benefits for CD quality lossless audio. It restores things like acoustics, subtleties, and it has a greater range. It provides a richer, more complete listening experience. Finally, vinyl processor. This picks up a lot of the things lost when you move into a digital format. I'm almost certain they have some fancy schmancy reasoning for this one as well, but we'll leave it at that and basically say that this has really good audio, everybody. Also, final thing, I'm not a true audiophile, no one really is here at Goody Reader, but I must say, it might be all in my head, but when we did use a 3.5mm headphone jack, it sounded more crisp, but we'll leave that up to the true purists of the crowd when you guys get this into your hands for yourselves. The thing you want to focus on the most is the equalizer icon. When you do that, this is where all the stuff happens. This is the DSEE, everything we've just talked about, DC phase, dynamic normalizer, vinyl processor, clear audio plus, and they give you toggles. It's not like you always want them on. They give you the option to have them on or off because it's going to leave it up to you to cater how you want to listen to it. Maybe some people don't want vinyl processing on certain file formats and vice versa for all of these choices. Basically, they leave it up to you. There's a bunch here. There's further settings menus. It's too deep of a dive to cover in one simple video. And again, with audio, it requires you to hear it for yourself, not listen through a YouTube video to have someone tell you what it sounds like. But needless to say, there are a ton of settings in the back end. We gauged the market reception with our unboxing video, and we arrived at a wall of audiophile purists spouting negativity towards us and others who seemingly didn't appreciate what this brought to the table. It shows that people still appreciate these niche items, much like ourselves with e-readers. The NW-A306 is an all-around mid-range unit in the world of Sony Audio Players, as some models of theirs can range upwards of $1,000. If you want to grab one, head over to our shop as we are a distributor of Sony's and can help you get into one. Thanks for watching.